This is Tools and Technology, Lesson 1, Overview of Planning Center, the Plans tab, and Scheduling People and Positions. So with Planning Center, a brief overview of how the whole system works. Much more of this is available through the most important button in all of Planning Center is the question mark in the circle right up here in the top right corner of your Planning Center website. Now, if you have multiple accounts or multiple churches or organizations through which you are connecting with on Planning Center, or you have multiple Planning Center accounts, when you first log in with your student account, what you're going to need to do is we're going to want to link our accounts. To do that, whether you do this, you can do this from the app or from the desktop view, is you need to log out of whatever you're already logged into, and when you log into Planning Center again, if all of your Planning Center accounts have the same email address as listed in your profile information, then Planning Center will prompt you to link them. If there's a different email address, then you will not get that prompt, and you'll have separate logins for each Planning Center account with different organizations. All right. This link right here is extremely helpful. Additionally, I provided a link directly to the overall assistant resources, which is what you get when you click on browse our documentation. All the help articles right here is amazingly helpful for learning every nuance of Planning Center. What we're going to concentrate on here is we're going to look at right up here at the very top. These are called tabs. Now they look more like just buttons or hyperlinks. Plans is all your service flows and all your different types of service. The Songs tab, Plans is also the default view, especially for members with very low permissions or very restricted access to Planning Center. The Plans view, or even just the plans they are scheduled for, is all they will see. The Songs view is going to have every single song that has been created and added to your Planning Center account, to your organization's Planning Center account. We'll spend more time on this in other lessons. The media is going to be for videos or audio recordings. There's also a store that you can buy content from directly through Worship House Media and other partners with Planning Center. The People tab is a huge personnel database. All the different people that serve in your different teams that you schedule through Planning Center, their information is on the People tab. Pretty self-explanatory. So we're going to look at the Plans tab today. I wanted to let you see how to create a new service type and also folders. I'm going to walk you through the overview of this Plans tab real fast. So there's 3 different layers of structure to how we can organize content in the Plans tab. There's folders, plan types, and then plans themselves. Folders are simply ways that you can store different plan types together that are similar but not the same. So a folder can be used to categorize different ministries at your church. So examples of what a different folder would be you may have a folder for a different folder for each campus, or you may have a folder for your adult ministries and like your weekend services, and you may have a different folder for your children's ministries. This allows you, here's what it does, is you're able to give different access to the people serving in your ministry in Planning Center for each plan type, but also for each folder. So if you have teams that serve only in student ministries, you may want a folder just for student ministries and just say you can see everything in there, but you can't see everything in our women's ministries, or etc. Okay, so it really is also what you want your people to see determines how you group together different items in folders. I'm going to create a new folder for you guys. So I'm going to you go over here to add a service type in the top right corner. You click create a new folder. I'm going to call this current classes. And we have one campus, but I'll just add that. If you have multiple campuses, you can choose right there. And actually, they've actually created some new optimization with campuses. That means you may not need a folder just for a campus. There's actually a default larger folder. Matrix options, that's something we'll talk about later. Let's fine to leave that as is. I'm going to click accept. Now I have a folder just like it appears right next to archived plan types. We have current classes. Now I'm going to create a new service type or a new plan type. So a plan type or a service type, they've actually changed the name of that recently. A service type is each distinct type of service, so that's self-explanatory, that tends to happen in a similar way on a recurrent basis, but happen in different times on the weekend or at different times during the week doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be a new plan type or even a new plan. So some examples, that's a little confusing way to say it maybe, but here's some examples. A Sunday morning 8 a.m. traditional worship service, say with like hymns and an organ and a choir, and an 9:30 a.m. right afterwards contemporary worship service with a rhythm section band and a frontline vocal team. Those are going to be different plan types because even though they happen very close together in time, the content of the service, of each service, is very different. And so you want to have those as different service types. Now, on the contrary, Saturday night and Sunday morning worship services that have the same service elements and have more or less the same, or even more or less the same service, identical service happening, they can be the same plan type. Not only the same plan type, they can also be the same plan or the same service type and the same plan, and we'll look at that in a little bit more later. Wednesday night services and Sunday morning services are easier to be separate service types. You think of it, they're separate services, they're separate types of service. One's a morning, one's a midweek at night. It's not necessarily a matter of when they happen, but also what happens in the service. When you create a new plan type, I'm going to create a new service type. I use those terms interchangeably. They used to be called plan types, and they are now called service types. So if I confuse the language, my apologies. So again, I'm going back up here to this add service type button, and I'm going to hover over create a new service type. I'm going to type the name in, Tools and Tech Spring 2018. Okay. Now this is a class, but it functions the same as if it was called traditional service or contemporary service. Now down here, there are some default teams that we can create that PCO tries to help us out with. What kind of teams are you going to be using? Are you going to be using an AV team? Are you going to schedule them through Planning Center? If not, we can unclick that. Are you going to be using a band? Are you going to use things like drums, acoustic guitar? If not, you can uncheck. If yes, you can check it. Are you going to have an orchestra at your church? Then you can check that and load that in. Are you going to choose to schedule your greeters and ushers in Planning Center? A cool new feature that they've had for a couple of years now. If not, uncheck it. Vocals. Are you going to do, and this one's pretty interesting, are you going to do a worship team and worship leader structure, or are you going to have soprano, alto, bass, choir, soloist type of scheduling? And then even, do you want to schedule your children's ministry volunteers? Okay, for the sake of what I want you guys to do, I'm actually going to not have these checked, and we're going to create these ourselves. And when you're done, you just create the new service. Now, when you create a new service type, the first thing it's going to want to do is, okay, you got this service type. Let's create your first service. Let's create your first plan. And it's going to ask you to create a time for that plan. So I'm going to let's just pick the next time, the first time we'll really look at this content for a class. 1:15 and 2:05 p.m. on a Wednesday, service time. So when we create a time for a service, we need to pick what kind of time is this. Is this the actual time this service, the event is happening? Is this a preparation time, a rehearsal time, or is this a different time? Is this a prayer time? Is this maybe a lot of times if you're scheduling your children's ministry team or your usher and or your ushers, you'll use other times to tell them when they need to arrive at. So we're going to call this a service time. I'm just going to call this a Wednesday class. Okay, and there's no teams created yet. We'll talk about that later. We have now created a service. Now, once you're in a plan, in a service, this little button right here will take you back up to view your whole service. Now, my service is sitting right here, but I want to move it to the folder current classes. My service type is out here. If you hover over, when you have this high enough permission, you can click on this little pencil next to Tools and Tech, Spring 18, and I'm going to move that to the folder current classes. Okay? I'm going to also do that with TKU Ensemble. It's going to make my life a little bit easier. Okay. I'm not seeing that, so I'm going to hit refresh. Another thing I should mention is Planning Center likes Google Chrome generally the best. Firefox also tends to work very well. Safari tends to be a little glitchy at times, and if you're using Internet Explorer, I feel sorry for you. Okay. So plans in Planning Center are your services, except you only need one plan for no matter how many services your church has on a weekend or in a week that are quote-unquote identical services, okay? So, again, if your church does have one weekend service or 2 Saturday and 3 Sunday services, they're all one plan if the services are mostly the same as each other. But if you have 2 services on a weekend and they are very different in their content, you need 2 different plans and probably 2 different plan types even, especially if you have different volunteers happening. It was just easier to treat them independently as different plan types or different service types. And if you have like one item in one service that is happening in that service but not happening in any others, for instance, baby dedication, or maybe there's an extra song you're going to do in one service but not in the other, you can remove individual items from individual service times in a certain way within the plan itself. We'll look at that a little later. Just tuck that knowledge away for now. So let's look at the plan flow. We are looking at one plan or one service, or in this case, a class time. Now, there are several different things we're going to look at. We're going to start right here. You can see this is the type of service we are in, the class. We can see the date I scheduled it to happen at. Next to it, I can add future classes or future services. Here are the titles. We have a series title, so I'm going to call this Planning Center Section or Lectures. Okay, and then click here to add a plan title. We're going to do, we'll call this Scheduling and Song Data is the content we're looking at over this time. So, in bold, this is your series title. In a church setting, this would be your sermon series. Okay, and what's cool is you can add art. If you have a logo for that sermon series, you can add it. You can just choose a file, and you can upload the series artwork. And when you choose in future plans, when you say this service is part of this sermon series, it adds that artwork, and it reflects in. Back at this view, any services that have the series will all show up under one block right here. And then the title for that sermon was right there. Okay. For the title for the given Sunday sermon is this lighter colored title underneath it. The service style, this is self-explanatory. These are standalone single moments. If you don't have a sermon title that you're putting here, you should still choose a title that provides some clarity and is a quick reminder of what's going on for the service. So maybe you don't have a sermon title. Maybe you want to. What else might be good there is put in who is the preacher that day. That's very helpful for your teams to know what's going on. And remember, oh yeah, that's what's going on. That's the service we're working on right now. So items within the service themselves. Right now it says there are no items. Let's add one. Okay. There are 4 types of items we're going to look at. First of all, it's just the item itself. Second is our songs, which is a type of item, a very particular type. Media is another particular type, and then headers, which are a little bit different. So you can hover over right here or add your first item, but after you add your first item, this goes away. So we're going to add an item right here, and again, you can see all 4 options are right here. So an item, you can click and add there, or if I just press the letter I, it brings up the same screen, the same pop-up menu. Here we would use an item is going to be an event in your service that is something like announcements, a sermon, or a prayer. Announcements, if I can spell. Okay? Right now, we're just going to call it that and leave it as is. Well, and we'll go and talk about this right now. So we can talk about minutes and seconds of how long this segment should be. So an item is a segment of your service. Is it going to happen before service, during, or after service? You can choose right here. That's important. The length of your service is going to be automatically calculated, of how long you plan it to be at least, is calculated by Planning Center. And it only counts stuff that is labeled as during service. And it's important that if you put in here pre-service prayer on your service flow, you put it as pre-service. Otherwise, it counts it as part of your service length. Okay. Item description, you can put in here. You can actually put in what the announcements are. Fundraiser. Or actually, well, we're doing this for a class, so let's do like homework reminder, midterm grades reminder, stuff, whatever. And then we're not going to talk a whole lot about notes here. These notes function kind of like the description, but they actually can show up as columns over here in the service flow. So we'll just do AV, just so you can see how it'll look. Okay, person, vocals. You can customize what types of notes you have. You can have new categories of notes. I've used these in the past to let my band know, look at the band notes. It has some information just for you. Vocals, look at the vocal notes. Sticky means do you want these to automatically show up as options in every service plan. All right. That's all we're going to worry about right now. Detail, a lot like description, but there's a little more. You can make them letters bold and italicized, but it's not as visible from the plan. Watch this. Okay. I create all of that. Notice I only see I automatically see the description, the item description, but I see the time I put in there, but I don't see any of my notes or my details. I can personally choose, and you can personally choose, do I want to see note categories and which ones? Okay? So for band people, I can choose, I want to see the band notes. I don't need to see the AV or the vocal notes. I just want to see my band notes. Okay, the other thing is the details. There's the notes and brief overview right there. We can also do comments. There's a ton of different ways you can add comments and add information about an item. Okay, that's items. Second one, songs. We're going to move through. And when I click on add a song, or I'm going to go back here, I'm going to just press the S button from the plan view. I can now, a song is an item that is linked to all of the song database on the songs tab right up here in your Planning Center. So specific things for the song to select. You need to select obviously the song title, but also you can select the arrangement and even pick which key you want to play that song in. So if I click on Alive, it's just going to pull in Alive and default. There's only one arrangement, and it's going to pick a default key. Or if I pick Break Every Chain, it's going to default to this arrangement and that key. Or maybe it's the most recent arrangement and most recent key. But if I click down here on Break Every Chain, Digital Age, key of A flat, it will pull in Break Every Chain by Will Regan, Digital Age, key of A flat. Okay? Now, there's no data here on this song. I'm going to add another song. Let's see if I can find something that has some materials for us. Okay. So when you have a song in your database that has documents attached to it, such as PDFs or chord charts or audio files for learning the song, or video instructional videos or web links to the YouTube video or something, all of this is visible from the desktop view. It's visible by hovering over this gray box right here, and I can see there's a PDF for the lyrics and there's a PDF for the chord chart in the key of E. And I can even choose to transpose that if it's like, okay, it's in the key of E, but I'm going to be playing second acoustic. I'm going to want to capo that up to maybe the key of C, and I can now see a chord chart. That's pretty cool, right? In the key of C, not the key of E, because I'm going to capo 4. All right. And that's for anyone to be able to do. That's especially available on the desktop view. I don't know if I've seen that transpose option in the app. Right, that's the songs. That's how you add a song. How you add a media element, a video announcement. You click on, add an item, M, or you can add an item, M or media. Or again, you can guess it, you just press the M button. You press the M, or maybe not. Okay, so they took that one away because media is not used that much. We're not spend a lot of time here. Works the same way as a song. If you have a media library in Planning Center, you can choose any of your media videos, background images, or you can PowerPoints, sermon notes can be uploaded to Planning Center and attached to the service plan. Yep, that's all we're going to talk about with that. Headers are not actually items in how I would describe an item. An item being something that actually happens in your service. It's an event in your service. Headers instead are categorical structure. They provide visual structure to your service and you can categorize where you are at in your service. So you can call this one introduction. And then another common header, if you press H, you get the header, add a header box. Might be worship for a service, and then another one would be maybe sermon or offering. But then inside of each of these, I would actually take my worship one and move it up there. Notice if I just hit the H and I add a new header, it shows up at the bottom of my service flow. If you're building your service flow in order, you know exactly the chronological order of your service flow, that's great. That works well. If you realize I need to add an item, like, oh, I need to add a song between Break Every Chain and Alive, you can hover on Alive, and you see that green plus button. Click on it. Whoa, that didn't work. Click on it, and now you can add an item. Okay, but I need to add a song. Or if you need to add a header, you can convert it to a header. Click cancel, go back, click on that green button again. Add an item. No, I want to add a song. Well, I can, from add an item view, I can link a song right there. Let me do that one more time, let you see right over here. Link a song. And I can pull in one more song. Let's do What a Beautiful Name, Let There Be Light. Or actually, whoa, let's just see. Let me show you what happens if I don't. Let me do this. Okay, King of My Heart. Is it the short version or is it the long Live of the Night version? What key is it in? I'm just going to click King of my Heart. And it defaults to short version key of A. At this point, I could then choose to change it to the long version and the key of D. I don't know. You can then customize the sequence with, the cool thing here is I can change the sequence and it changes the sequence that's saved in the song database, or I can change the sequence just for this service. I can change the order of the song. I can move verse 3 up here, whatever. Okay? And that'll show up on the chord charts that your band downloads. So I put verse 3 at the very beginning for some silly reason, right? Now that is what my team is able to see. That's how we're going to play the song just for this service because I clicked on this item only. All right. Now, that's how you add an item, a header, a song. 4 different ways. Add this button, add it with that button, use the hyperlinks for everything except media, or to put it exactly where you want it in a service flow, you hover over the item you want it to go in front of, and you click on that green plus button. All right? Now, that's the plan. You can add all the items you need. You make your whole service flow doing just that. And you can change with every song or item, you can change the length, you can change when it happens, you can add descriptions and details and notes about that item or that song or that media, but not header. Notice headers don't have any extra information about them. They're just a label, okay? Now, over here on this song, on this left menu bar, we're going to see something. There's 3 tabs here at the top. We're going to deal with all of these. I'm going to collapse these real fast. Okay, we're going to deal with these items later in a sec. First, I want to look at the Songs tab. Now, this is our, without me clicking on the Songs tab, this is our default view. I've got times, teams, notes, and attachments over here. I see my service plan over here. I can see pretty much all my other information about my plan on the left-hand bar. If I click on the Songs tab, plan stays the same. What I have access to over here changes. What just happened is this list, this view right here, is the same view as if I add a song. I get this list of songs is the same as this list of songs over here. It's going into, let me show you. It's going into the Songs tab and showing me my whole song database just in a simplified form. So when we hover over a song, I can click and drag that song into my service flow and drop it anywhere I want. This is a 5th way to add a song. Okay? Now, when I do, I can then change all the content about it, all the information about that song. And I can change what key it is. I can change the arrangement if there's more than one. We'll worry about that later. Okay? Or when I hover over a song, I see all this extra information. And I can choose to drag in either the song or the arrangement version, okay, or the key of that arrangement version, just like you could in the first way we added a song, okay? Let's see if we got any other. See how that works? Okay, the same idea. When you add the key for the particular arrangement you want, you determine all the details you need about the song and get it right the first time. That's my recommended way of adding the songs to your plan. It just saves extra steps. All right, the media tab up here. So if you unclick the Songs tab, it goes back to your default view. But even from the Songs tab or from the default view, if you click on the Media tab up here, again, these are the gray tabs, not these green buttons up top, the gray ones. If you click these, it takes you to different pages in Planning Center. Same thing as the Songs tab, except it's with your videos that you have in Planning Center. Now I'm going to go over to the People tab. This just changed. Whoa, something just happened over here. What happened? Okay. Default view and song view and media view leave your plan right here in the main view of the screen. But people view changes, hides the plan, and you just see any teams you need to schedule. Okay, we don't have any teams in this one in particular. Let me show you a different one. Let's look at last semester real fast. I'm going to navigate real quick. If I click on the people tab, and look, it stays in the people tab as I move from plan to plan, even type to type, plan, service type to service type. Now, instead of seeing the service flow, if I click on people, I see names and I can drag and schedule them for whatever position I want to schedule them for. Now, and that I'm able to schedule them for those positions even if they've never been approved for that position before. Very interesting stuff. Okay, that is these 3 gray tabs. I'm going to navigate back. If you hover over your plans green icon, you can actually jump back to other plans you have recently visited. I'm going to click and go back to, this is our new service plan or service type. All right, we've looked at these 3 light gray tabs. The times category, the times feature, there's 3 types of times. Okay, you can add a time by clicking the button, add a time. 3 types of times to reword about. We already talked about service time. That's when the stuff actually happens. Rehearsal time, and other times that you want your team to gather. So let's add a second service time. Let's add the Thursday morning class. Thursday class, if I can spell. 8 a.m. to 8:50, not p.m., a.m. Okay, and I need to change this date. Not to the 10th, to the 11th. And click accept. Wednesday class, Thursday class. I'm going to add a rehearsal just to see what happens. I'm going to do this just because 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now I have 2 different types of times. Now, when I have additional teams, I'll show you this hopefully later, you can actually choose which teams are required to be, you can assign teams to be at that service time, okay? Now, over here in the plan, if you hover over where it says lengthen minutes, you click this drop down arrow. You can choose to view your plan as just the length of each item that you have determined it should be, the time, or the time at which it will happen for each service. Or you can look at all of them. So my Wednesday 1:15 class, this is when all these items will happen. My 8 a.m. Thursday class, this is when all these items will happen. Here's where you can say, it's kind of early. We're not on Thursday morning, we're not going to sing alive. I just click on that time at which that event would happen. And look, it's gone. And now, Jesus, we love you would happen at the time otherwise alive was happening at. Notice this time and this time, the overall run in the service changes. The ending of the service changes. Okay? So you can change a couple items here and there is what I would say is how you can do this. Okay, so you can have one plan flow for a few different, slightly different service plans on a weekend. So other times at a time, other times again would be something like an usher pre-service prayer or maybe a traffic team setup time. This is not normally a time of an event that happens in the service. It should only be created if a time of an event or gathering that you are going to send as an invitation to people to come. It's an extra time you need to tell people, hey, we need you here at this time in addition to the service time. Okay, so that's the times part of this left tab. Teams. So here, there's some defaults. We already talked about those defaults. We didn't create them. We're going to create them ourselves. The teams can be as detailed or as simple as you want. How many different teams do you want? The general best rule is you want vocals, band, and choir to all be different teams on the worship side. And additionally, worship leadership is also commonly a separate team. So I'm gonna create a new team. We'll call this band. Create a new team, vocals. Oh, no, sorry, I did that wrong. I created a position vocals inside of the band. Create a new team, vocals. Create a new team. What's another one? Let's just do worship, leadership. We'll just call this leadership, actually. And then create a new team, audio, video, visual. So here's what I would say. It is important that across different plan types in your PCO account, you are very exact in using the same terminology as much as possible for your teams and positions. It makes sharing people between campuses or between ministries far easier to find and realize. Now, this is interesting. Audio visual automatically populated some. That's interesting that happened with that and not band. Now, what are they saying? You want to use the same title, so don't in your kids ministry call this audio visual, but then in your weekend your adult ministry call this tech. It's gonna cause headaches. It's easier when they're the same team labels. And when you're coming to having a schedule across multiple ministries. Now, once you have created the teams you need, you actually need to create what are the positions inside that team. What you do is you just click on the team you want to add positions to, and then you click Add Position. And here we'll do drums. And you can even right here add who you want to schedule as a drummer. Okay? Well, and there's other places you can do that. And you can add another position. And you keep doing that until you are done. I'm actually going to let you guys fill in some of those. Okay? You can also copy a team from a different plan type that you've already created. This also helps keep the titling correct and uniform, although you have the option to change it. Okay, once all of your teams are created, you hit enter. I still don't have anything showing up over here. Now we're going to hover over Add People, and we are going to click on Needed Positions. When we do that, we see there's a couple of teams that have some positions created, and when you change the number of people or positions, hey, I need one audio guy, 2 camera guys, one line in person, 1 video switcher, and 1 service producer. And apparently I need 3 drummers. And we're going to click accept in a second. Let me just mention this yellow box. If you click on this hyperlink word teams, it's going to take you back to that same page we had just seen where we're creating teams. Accept. Now we see over here audio visual. If I click on it, we get a drop down. Now we see all these yellowish orange boxes of, hey, 1 person needed here, 3 persons needed here. I now need to fill those, okay? And I can click on that box and choose someone to schedule, okay? Now let's say you don't see the name you want to add. Amy person. I can create a new person right here, Amy person, or I can add a new person to Plan Center. I'm not creating the individual. No, this is a made up person. And I can choose their email. I put in their email, choose what permissions they have. We'll deal with that later. Choose an email to send them, and I'll hit continue, and that would send an invite to them and add them to Planning Center. And now I can add Amy to the camera position. Amy person. There we go. And once you have filled in all of the teams that you need, all the positions are scheduled out the way you want, they're still not actually invited. Okay? Now we need to actually so let me show you one more thing. Click back on the people tab. We see these same positions and teams, but this is fun. We're able to click and drag them to any position, even if they haven't been previously approved for that position. Now notice when I schedule this Amy person for the 3rd position, notice it says 2 conflicts. If it's yellow, it means that there's a timing conflict. She's already scheduled to serve in 2 other things at the same time, 2 other positions. And Planning Center is going to let you choose, is that possible or is that really a conflict? For instance, traffic team and worship team probably have an overlapping time conflict. So you can't do them both at the same service or weekend. But acoustic guitar and vocals, those you could probably do together, or you can decide, can that person do both things or not. But so you see there, you can decide, is that conflict really a problem or not. Now if you see it in red, that means the person has already said, I am unavailable for this date and time, in which case you can but with the yellow you can accept conflicts and still add the person. Now, we've scheduled everybody that we need. We're going to do a service without a lighting person and video switcher. We're ready to, but these people still don't know you have scheduled them. Okay, you've just been building your schedule. I'm going to make that go back away. We need to now email. Right down here below the add person button, email. We need to actually invite these people to their positions for this service. When you click on email, you get this pop-up window. It's going to prepare notifications is a fancy word for people that haven't been invited to this service yet. Okay, we're going to leave it there for when you're sending out invites. Pretty much everything here you can leave checked. Okay, leave as it defaults to. But you can choose, if I'm not quite ready to invite the band, I need 2 more drummers, I can uncheck that but I know my AV team is ready, so I can schedule them and send them their schedule, but while I still figure out the band side. Okay? Oh, and then when you got all of that ready, you can click accept. Let me explain these buttons right up here. Prepare notifications, that means they haven't been invited yet. All scheduled people is if you need to send reminder emails, either to everybody, hey team, we changed the songs, we changed the roadmap or whatever, you can send it to everybody that you have invited. If you need to send a reminder, hey, please confirm, please say yes or no that you can play, you want to uncheck confirmed because those people have responded, and you just send an email to the unconfirmed people. Needed positions is sign-up sheets, not something we're dealing with in this class. Accept. Now, you can write an email. You can choose a template if you've created one. You can edit and create templates using this button right here. You can change exactly who you want to send this email to. You can change the title of the email or the subject line of your email, which the default in Planning Center is in front of whatever you put here is the title that shows up here of what your ministry is called in Planning Center. So the longer it is, the less likely it is your team is ever going to actually see the title of your email. Then you can compose the email and everything about it. There's some things that you never see when you're composing this email that shows up, and what gets sent to your volunteers is all the information about your plan. That being the plan type name and the dates and times and all other times that they are scheduled for. Rehearsal times, service times, other times. You can change the language that you want to use here. You can add some custom personal touch. everything in brackets, let me mention real fast, is custom code that's going to add in. Instead of it saying, hi, everyone, it'll actually say the person's first name, whoever the email is going to. And then at the bottom, it'll default. You can change what your signature is. I think somewhere, I think that's in your profile. And it'll autofill that for you. And when you're done, you hit send. I don't really want to do that right now. Okay. And then it goes through. And that is how you schedule people and create positions in a plan.